Many of you know that I'm working on my second feature film as a writer-director, Mustang Martha. And I was recently posting about a staged reading that we did for the script as part of a fundraiser and an audience feedback session. And this has been such a crucial tool as a writer and eventually director in making Mustang Martha, as well as my first feature film, Acid Test. And it's something that I recommend to every writer out there, the table read. The table read is the writer's best friend because it allows you to hear your dialogue. It gives you a sense of the pacing of the script. You get to hear people laughing, especially if you do it in front of an audience. Or crying or shrieking out or you know, emoting. And so it gives you a first glimpse into how your audience is going to react to your movie. And I cannot tell you how helpful it is. And there are more table readings, stage reading, uh, workshops, and people do it over Zoom. And there are a lot of different ways you can do it. You can do it informally with just a bunch of friends, and they can each be reading five characters. You can kind of do it up any way that you want. For Acid Test, I did one where I flew in the actors from the short film to basically workshop the script for a weekend. So we had a table read in front of a live audience. We got feedback from these questionnaires that we handed out. And, we had everybody sitting around the table. We cast out the roles beyond the short film. And then from that feedback, we then had smaller kind of workshop sessions over the weekend. And so it really helped me get a sense of what was working, what wasn't working, what people were gravitating towards, what the actors were seeing within the characters, especially since they had already portrayed them in the short film and we already had a baseline for what we wanted. So it was really, really helpful. And the script changed quite a bit from that first table read to what we have now today that, went to festivals and is available to watch. There was really just a significant kind of philosophical change in terms of how I was approaching the story after that first table read. With Mustang Martha, which started out as Martha's Mustang, we did a table read in front of a live audience at the Houston Cinema Arts Festival that was funded by the city of Houston through the Houston Arts Alliance. And that did the same thing like the acid test table read did. It created this kind of seismic shift in how I was approaching the script. There were some things that didn't change at all, but some of the kind of core elements of how I was approaching material became very clear once I heard it out loud, heard the audience's reaction, and again received feedback from that audience and from the actors about what was working, what wasn't working, what people were connecting with, and all that. So I didn't really think I needed to do another table read because I felt really secure in the new direction of the script. But I did another informal table read with some actor friends and some other friends. And, this was in a much, much later draft where it's been really, really refined. And I could feel the movie, I could feel the script. And then, in order to connect more with our audience, and especially since it's based on a true story out of Baytown, we did a staged reading at the Baytown Little Theater, which is a community theater in Baytown where our story is based on true events that happened there. And I really wanted to connect with the community and also give them a chance to hear what this story is all about because, you know, I'm coming in from Houston. They don't know me. And they want to make sure that I'm not disparaging Baytown or making fun of it in any way. And so I thought this would be a great way to kind of present all of that as well as get it up on its feet, which staging the table read, I mean, the actors were still reading from the script. They weren't off book. We had barely any props, no real wardrobe changes, things like that. And we still had actors who were playing multiple characters. But getting it up on its feet with the entrances and exits really brought it to life and really allowed me to think about production in a way that I hadn't before with the table reads. I could start seeing the scenes coming together because now I have bodies moving through space. And, even though we don't have a set and, like I said, didn't have any props, it really, could use your imagination. And again, it offered some insight into some of the refinements that need to happen with the script. But with each step, it's really, really proving the script. It's showing that this can be a movie. And so it's been really exciting to me to use this tool in a variety of ways this time around, whereas I only used it the one time with acid test. And I'm curious about anybody else who's using table reads in the same way. It's something that I know in the theater world that playwrights will hire actors for a weekend to workshop plays. And that's where I first got this idea because one of my best friends is an actress in New York and she had been hired, to do a play, but this play workshop for a weekend. And so I had never really thought about it that way. And I've also been inspired by Mike Lee and his approach, where he workshops with the actors and improvisation. I know there's debate about who should get credit for those scripts, but again, this idea of this collaborative approach and, having more minds from different perspectives. It's different than I think a writer's room would be because you've got a writer and actors who are coming at it from a different perspective. But then the key component outside of that is the audience. Having the audience listen to it and watch it, see it unfold, even in this partial way, has really been encouraging. And so I really just can't speak highly enough about the table read tool, listening to your script, listening to your audience, listening to the pacing, listening to your stage directions. Do they make sense? Are the scenes flowing? And especially with staging the production at Baytown Little Theater, I listened to my script over Zoom at a rehearsal, a blocking rehearsal, and then for the final event, all within about a week. And so that back to back to back really was like, oh God, that scene needs to go, and it was interesting thinking about, casting choices and again, blocking choices and stylization choices. It all really just had a different feel to it once we were staging it as opposed to sitting around a table. Now, I know these things can cost money, but again, you can work with resources available to you. Is there a community theater near you? Is there a school theater like a community college or a, a college theater? Do you have friends who have spaces? Here in Houston, there are a bunch of different spaces that you could stage a table read or a staged reading. So these are things that they aren't really that difficult. And a table read runs a little bit long, but it runs about the same as your page count. So again, if you've got a lot of stage directions and things like that, it can be a little bit longer, maybe 2.5, 3 hours, but you get some snacks, you get people together, and it's a whole lot of fun.